Hey folks, it's Cesar Pagan, host of Beyond the Frequency 369. So I just want to take a moment before we start this episode to just let you guys know that this one was a special one for me. It is pretty long, so I hope some of you can stay tuned throughout the duration of this episode. And the reason it was so long was because I wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to get to know a little better my guest, Dr. Allecia Maine. Now, Dr. Allecia Maine is telepathic and she speaks to animals. And folks, this isn't just a regular episode where she talks about talking to animals and how she does it, and that's it. I've actually had the privilege and the honor and the opportunity to have Allecia do a telepathic review or reading, if you will, on my cats, my personal cats, the ones that live with me. And it was a great session. And folks, I have to tell you this, I'll be very transparent. Allecia had no idea anything about me, my wife, my kids, and my cats. And through talking with one of my cats, his name is Ziggy, and I'll put a photo right here for you guys to see. By talking to Ziggy, I found out that, and brace yourself here, my cat's an alien. My cat's not of this planet. I know how it sounds. Trust me, I felt the same way. But the confirmation for my family was the fact that without knowing anything about us, Ziggy, our cat, was able to tell Dr. Allecia Maine a lot about this family, a lot about our personalities individually, about the things that he needs, wanted, the things that he's aware of, his observations. He had a lot to say. And folks, my cat was waiting for the opportunity to be heard. And I just learned a whole lot. And at the end of all of this, I'm being very transparent with you. It has changed the lives and the dynamic within our family between myself, my wife, our two cats, and our two kids. We don't see the cat the same. We see we're more connected. And this has something to do with something called foster tissue, which I never heard before. And Dr. Allecia Maine will explain that to you on this episode. So bottom line, folks, if you have a pet and you want to know more about your pet, you want to know how they feel. Are they healthy? Are they happy? Are they content? Is there anything that you need to know about your pet? It's possible with people like my guest today, Dr. Allecia Maine. So if you're willing to take the journey and stay tuned to this episode, please take notes, reach out to Dr. Allecia Maine in the description below, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. I know I was, my family was, and it definitely has changed our lives. And with that said, enjoy the show.
Okay, so I get from the two of them, and I kind of had asked them, I was like, all right, guys, I'm only going to work on one of you at a time. So who wants to get worked on first? And I just kept seeing Ziggy. Like Ziggy was just like, me, like work with me. So we're going to work with Ziggy. And Cesar, you're going to also be able to keep an eye on Colby. Colby might even come over. I have no idea.
Do you want me to bring them both together with like snacks or anything?
No, I'm just gonna say, like right now, Ziggy's sort of like, I don't know. I want to do this first, okay? So we're gonna start with Ziggy. So Ziggy, you are adorable. Oh my God, he's really, really cute. He's unique. Like, have you ever wondered if Ziggy was like from another planet? Because he's got
his name, Ziggy Stardust, the David Bowie song. So we joke and say he's the kitty from Mars.
Okay, perfect. Because he is so clear. He's like, I don't know if I'm really from here. Like, even the shape of his head, I was like, you little guy are very interesting, and I don't even know if you're from here.
What if I told you that everything you know is just the beginning? Beyond the veil of the ordinary lies a realm of hidden knowledge, ancient wisdom, and untapped potential. a place where consciousness expands, reality bends, and the impossible becomes possible. You weren't meant to stay asleep. You were meant to awaken. Open your mind, remember who you truly are, and step with me beyond the frequency 369. Hey, before you start the episode, if you're on YouTube or Rumble, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. You want to make a comment? Go for it. It's America. If you catch me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit me with those 5 stars. I appreciate the support. Let's start the show. All right, folks, welcome back to Beyond the Frequency 369. I'm your host, Cesar Pagan. What if I told you your animal has been speaking to you this whole time? And not only can they hear you, they can feel you in ways that go far beyond words. Today's guest lives in that space, Dr. Allecia Maine, or also known as the Animal Healer. She has spent over 25 years working in the unseen, where energy becomes language and healing happens across miles. She's transformed wild Mustangs without ever touching them, helped pets release trauma they've carried for years, and opened a channel between humans and animals that feels nothing short of magical. This isn't training. This is connection on a soul level. And once you hear it, you can't go back. Dr. Allecia Maine, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm really good. I have like chills hearing that.
Yeah? Well, I'm glad. It's just, I like to do a little small intro from my part about my guest, but obviously I'm going to allow you to fill in any gaps that the audience needs to have. But let me just start off by letting you know that I appreciate you being here. I am happy. I'm sitting in gratitude. I'm thankful because you have gifted me your time to spend to have a conversation with me, my audience, and we're all going to take something away from this. So thank you.
So welcome. It is truly my honor. It's my honor, and I feel like it's my mission.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me on and allowing me to fulfill my mission.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We are going to exchange a lot of energy, a lot of positive, frequencies. We're going to raise some vibrations, we're going to heal some people. We're also going to probably even awaken some folks to many things. So there's going to be a lot happening today, folks. So just kind of buckle up and turn up the volume a little bit. If you are in the middle of doing something, take a break, sit down. If you're watching on YouTube, sit down and watch, because this is going to be amazing. So Dr. Allecia Maine, and I'm going to call you Dr. Allecia for this episode because you've earned that title. Okay. So
which is so crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I ask you like any of these questions about what you do and how you do it, and folks, just a little preview, she talks to animals. All right. So just to hold on to that thought. Before we even get deeper into that conversation, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, for those that already know you, for those that don't know you, and also give us a little bit of who were you before you got into any of this?
Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning. I was born in the Bronx house. So I was actually born in Albert Einstein Hospital, which will make sense a little bit further in. I was always outdoors. I loved nature. I didn't fully understand a lot of it, but it spoke to my soul in a way that I couldn't even verbalize. So when I was 5, my mom asked me, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a vet and I want to help animals heal." And then school came in, and math and science and I did not get along. And so it's like, there's no possible way that I can be a vet. Like I don't even understand the math and science, let alone have the grades. Like when I was in school, and I'm honestly, probably a good 20 years older than you, although I might not look it, I'm probably in that range. We would get these pages, on the tests, and they'd have like all these bubble letters. So I wouldn't even know the answers to anything. I would just sit and color in the bubble letters. Nothing. It didn't make sense. I had no context. It didn't work. So I grew up, was very athletic, ended up becoming a fitness trainer, and had nothing thing on my bucket list, except I'm just going to be an entrepreneur and a business person. I have intelligence for that. But I landed up going to college. I graduated with a degree in marketing and international business. And I had been working out with a boyfriend for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years before I graduated. And business just wasn't it. So I became a fitness trainer. And so I worked at one of New York City's like premier fitness clubs when it first opened. And it was amazing. I fell in love with fitness training. I finally started actually understanding the math and the science, because through what you had to understand about how to calculate, body fat and all of these things. So certain things just started clicking, and I loved helping people get healthy. I loved helping them get fit. I loved helping them achieve their goals. I loved being so fit, and working out and working with my body. And during that time, I met a client who became like my spiritual mom. And it was like as soon as we met at the gym, it was just like this instant connection that I didn't know anything about spirituality. I didn't know about meditation. I didn't know about Qigong. I didn't know about chiropractic care. I just normal trainer, fats, carbs, protein, and what's your cardio? Like that was it. So she would, as we were going through training sessions, she would start sharing different things with me, or she would give me exercises when I went home. She's like, before you go to sleep, like count backwards from 100, just all of these different things that I didn't even know, wasn't even on my bucket list. So she started working with a Chinese acupuncturist, and she started training in a modality called Qigong meridian therapy. And so some of our sessions, she'd actually do a session with me because she had to practice and do case studies. And one Christmas, she gave me the gift of acupuncture. And so I did not like needles. But I ended up going down to Chinatown and let this Chinese man, who I couldn't really fully understand, stick a whole bunch of needles in me. And when I was laying on that table for the first time in my life, and I think at the time I maybe was like 21 or 22, it's 5 floors up, and we're 2 blocks off of we're in Chinatown, 2 blocks off of Broadway. I mean, it is noisy. It's kind of, it's just loud. I'm always in my head. I'm always thinking. And there I am on that table, and all of a sudden, like something happened. And it was almost like the scene in Contact where Jodie Foster is finally in the thing, right? And she's up, and then it's like, and everything just disconnects, right? The chair disconnects, it's floating in the air, and I'm just going, no idea what this is. But for the first time in my life, up until that point, I had realized I'm not just my brain. You're so used to the brain going and going and going that you don't even know what silence is anymore. And so I had that experience of that silence, and I just kept going back. I didn't understand the path. I didn't understand I was supposed to study Qigong with this man. I did not, I just kept going. And the more that I went, I started learning about the body and how the system actually functions from such a different perspective. And then I kept studying with him, and I kept learning about traditional Chinese medicine. And every time I would take one of his classes where he was teaching about the system, I mean, it was like these raindrops just kept hitting my forehead, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what the truth is. Oh my God, that's what the truth. So when I was fitness training, I was learning a lot, and that's, what you learn to help people get fit. But I wasn't having the kind of like consciousness opening understandings and remembrances of how the system as a whole actually works from an energy and a frequency perspective. So eventually, within like 2 years, I started practicing Qigong with him. He's a Qigong master from China. And it was like the most incredible experience, because while I kept sort of pulling away from societal norms and cultural stuff and all that, the remembrances, the awarenesses, the connections of the energy, the understandings, I was like, oh my God, how do we not learn this in our world? And then those experiences, it's funny. I found a picture here. This is me in a crop circle because I went with him to England because he studies
That's awesome.
a lot,
And
right?
you'll be able to you'll be able to maybe like send me those as a screenshot, something, so I can put it up.
And then here's me meditating in a crop circle. I might have been having acupuncture at the time.
So wait, let me just get something straight here. Again, you were in a crop circle, right?
Yeah,
And we're talking in it. So again, we're talking about, and folks, some of you should already know this, but for those that happen to come across this podcast and are hearing about this, a crop circle is what most believe that alien crafts or some kind of extraterrestrial being has created these symbols or shapes, and they usually happen in these large fields
in England.
in
They
England.
happen around the world, but England tends to, in the summertime, England tends to have the most of them.
And you were laying in one of them, which
So I was
is
having
amazing.
acupuncture. I slept in one
Why did you choose to sleep in one?
because my Qigong master, he studies that stuff. Like he understands, like he translates the energetics of that stuff. So he would spend summers, going to England for a couple weeks, and he would take some of his students, and I was lucky enough to go one summer. So he became friendly with a lot of the farmers, and he was studying literally the energetics and what the healing properties of those crop circles were. So we got to visit a bunch of different ones. We got to sleep, and you need permission obviously from the farmer, but we got to sleep in one. So I got to sleep in a crop circle. I got acupuncture in a crop circle. And we went.
How do you or your teacher get notified? Hey, we got a crop circle. Is that how that was?
But there's in England, in those areas in the English countryside, I mean, there's an entire network of people. There's an entire network of researchers, farmers, they all kind of work together. And a lot of the farmers, they will allow researchers in, they will allow people to come in, and visit the circles. And it just, I mean, talk about frequency and coding. It's like, I still am unwinding 30 years later things that got coded in my system to help me understand the work that I do today and the research that I do today. So it's, there's absolutely fake crop circles, and how you can tell, and I don't mean this as a diversion since we were talking about it. They build these long plank boards, and then they put handles on them, and then they just keep, like move another
Like
foot.
stamping them or something?
Yeah, like they stamp down the wheat in the field. But the thing is that will create a broken stem in the wheat shaft. Crop circles that actually form, that are the natural formations between. I can't say this with absolute proof. I'm pretty sure from having been in it and being pretty sensitive to energies. Yep, there's an intergalactic communication. But the ones that are made through intergalactic communication, the wheat basically just
lays over or lays down.
So nothing is broken.
I like that. I like that distinction between the two. I've heard about that. I did hear something about the whole breaking of the deal, but I didn't really know that it was, man-made machines or what it is.
There absolutely are ones like that. I think that they were trying to prove like, well, man could make them.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but there's subtleties. Intergalactic intelligence is far superior to human intelligence. We are not the most intelligent species out there. As a matter of fact, we're kind of on the lower end, especially when you're talking about wars and the things that we're doing to the animals and the planet, like in the people. So that was part of my experience, was going to the crop circles. As I was practicing Qigong, what got reawoken in me was the memory that I wanted to help animals heal. And so one year, I think I was practicing Qigong for maybe about 2 years. I think I started in 1993 or 94. I think I started in 1993. And that next year in 94, a girlfriend called me and she said, "Oh, you have to go to Hawaii." I was like, she said, "My friend studied with this animal communicator, and she loves dolphins, and you love dolphins, and she loves Qigong, and you have to go." And I had no money to go at the time. I was just, and I called the woman who was running it, and and she was like, "I'm so sorry, it's full." And I thought, all right, but something in my body was like, "You don't understand. I have to be here." And then all of these sequential things, this is when I kind of first started understanding about manifestation, and that you can be very, very clear with the universe about a desire or a experience that you want to have. And then all of these things started falling in place. Like, I got the money to go. I went on I think it was my 27th birthday. I met the dolphins. I had an experience with a dolphin in the ocean that was literally hanging in front of me and beamed my stomach with energy. And I could feel the golden energy. And I was like, what are you doing? And she said, what do you think I'm doing? I'm like, I don't know, but I feel the golden energy. And it's like, it basically kind of shifted my stomach, because our stomach is actually our first brain. Our gut is our first brain, not this. And when she did that, it opened up my brain in such a different way from our indoctrinated education of the box, and we're cut off from all of those frequencies. So we're cut off from remembering what is true. And that experience with my teacher, Marianne Simons, it changed everything, because it's like I was in the ocean with the dolphins. Dolphins are swimming around in a sleeping pattern. You're getting beamed by all of their, sonar. And it was like, for the first, it's like the bells and whistles went off, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to be able to help the animals this way. And then that started my career from, I don't know, like 32 years ago, of professionally communicating with animals and hearing them. And I made them a deal. I said, listen, if people are going to pay me money to do this, I have to hear you in English. Like, I have to hear you in my native language, so I can understand how to explain exactly what's taking place and exactly your perspective and exactly what you understand also about them, about yourself, so that you get helped, and that, like, people know there's no way I could know what your animal's telling me. I'm not.
Yeah. And I mean, wow. So these dolphins, they made this agreement. Was it just the dolphins, or did they speak on behalf of all the animals and say, yep?
Well, it started with the dolphins and that trip, but I had also taken, and the time frame for me is crazy, because I forget whether, I think I took a weekend class in New York City with Joanna Beth Sear. And in that, I brought my golden retriever with me to that session. And when we had that weekend session, I had an experience with my golden retriever that we were wolves. Both of us were wolves in one lifetime. And I saw us on the top of a mountain, snow-covered mountain ridge, running under the full moon. And when I came out of that experience and I looked at my dog and he looked at me, I was like, because I had never had those. I mean, I grew up in the Bronx. My parents were cool, but that's not what was their thing. I mean, I think my mom understood about ESP, and I'm sure, on some level my dad did too, but I didn't grow up with any of it.
Well, let me make sure I understand what you just mentioned here regarding the whole wolf vision. So when you said that you came out of it and you had looked back at your dog and you had this like aha moment, talk to me about that moment when you looked at your dog. Why was it that you were so shocked? Did he start talking to you, or
I was shocked because when I went into the meditation, I wasn't expecting to see that memory.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting to remember that I had been a wolf in a lifetime.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that we had known each other before the lifetime we were currently in.
It was you and your dog? Oh, okay. I apologize. I missed that little piece there. Okay, so wow.
I wasn't a human in that life. I was a wolf. He was the wolf that I was running with. So when I looked at him and he looked at me,
there's the aha, like, what?
The soul recognition of, I didn't even know that was even possible.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in terms of that, can humans be animals and can animals be humans? So it was an eye opener. And then the next eye opener that I had, I was in my closet cleaning out some stuff and just like changing, I think, from like winter clothes to spring clothes. And my golden retriever, Tucson, was on the bed, and we had gotten a chocolate lab puppy named Barney. And I was doing stuff and they were right behind me, and Barney had his feet like on the bed, but I knew he couldn't get up. He was still too little. So I turned over my shoulder and Tucson had his Frisbee. And I said, just nonchalantly, I just said, hey, why don't you give Barney the Frisbee, then pull him up on the bed? And I went back to doing my clothes. I didn't even, it was one of those like just so matter of fact. I wasn't even aware of what I was aware of what I said, but I wasn't actually aware of like that could happen. Like he could understand sentences and So I finished my closet and I turn around and Tucson's laying on the bed and Barney's sitting right in between his front legs. And I literally kind of fell back in my closet. I was like, now this stuff is really starting to get real and kind of weird, right? Because when you come to it from an intellectual perspective of logic and reason, you're like, right, maybe it's possible. But when you come to it from the perspective of let go of logic and reason, and this is actually telepathic communication, is the way that all life, like the air, the water, the trees, the rocks, the soils, the humans, the animals, everything communicates from that language. And it's usually pictures or you hear something or you feel something or you know something. But to actually see it happen, like, because when I was working with training Tucson, all the books were like, well, you have to use a certain intonation and they didn't talk about telepathic communication, or you can just show each other pictures. So to actually see it happen blew me away.
Yeah,
It blew me away.
that was your proof. And I'm wondering if was that the very first moment that you realized that you could communicate with animals, or was it further back?
Well, when I was about 5 or 6, we had a Dalmatian named Peppy. And Peppy had this habit. My parents would go outside and walk him for like 2 hours, wouldn't go to the bathroom, come back in the house. He'd go to the bathroom. That was already strike 1 against Peppy. But Peppy and I think, had a communication because I remember he took my toy once. And so he took my toy. I know we were having a party at our house, and I remember a lot of people were there. Peppy took my toy. And I'm like 5 or 6, and I don't think anything of it. And I stick my hand down Peppy's throat to get my toy back. Well, my father sees this, and he thinks the dog is attacking me. And Peppy got in trouble, and Peppy was no longer in our household a little while after that. So I did not consciously know that that's what it was. But when my parents got divorced when I was about 9, my dad used to take us to the Bronx Zoo all the time. And I just always had this fascination with the animal. I had fascination with horses. I had a fascination with the elephants, with the wolves, with the bears. And it wasn't just like, oh, this is so cool. It was something inside of me that didn't actually understand what was taking place. And I couldn't say that I was communicating with them then. I hoped I was. And I used to go to the circus for my birthday. That was the thing. And so I used to watch these animals and I was like, I'm going to be a famous animal trainer someday of wild animals, right? I mean, things have changed a lot since then.
Right.
And I don't go to circuses anymore, but it's always been something that I have always felt more comfortable, safer, more myself around animals than a lot of humans.
Yeah.
And then when I started communicating, the first couple of years I was in New York City, then 9/11 happened, and then I moved out to Aspen, Colorado, just shortly after 9/11. Like if it happened in September, I moved out to Colorado in December of 2001. And then things just kept taking off and I became a dog trainer. A client asked me to train his dog. Like I haven't professionally ever trained a dog, but it was the first time I got to use telepathic communication with the dog in a training situation. And I started seeing how amazingly well it worked. Like she could pick up the pictures.
So with this being your first training of a dog, you were already going into it with the feeling that, or the knowledge that you already felt comfortable that I can talk to animals, right? What was the point where you knew it was real? Like where it solidified that, okay, I really am doing this?
It was a session that I did with a smaller, like Jack Russell kind of dog, like maybe a year or 2 into when I started professionally communicating. And the dog was sick. They didn't understand. They didn't know. Like we've tried everything. We don't understand why the dog's sick. Now, I grew up understanding animals cannot see colors. That's what the science says, right? Well, this dog showed me a bag that had the colors of purple and orange on it. And I said to the woman, I don't understand exactly what this means, but what's the purple and orange bag? She said, well, that's the color of his food bag. Okay, animals are not colorblind, at least not on the spiritual level, because how would I know? I've never met the dog. This was only by phone. I didn't do it by, Zoom like I do now.
That's actually, and just to interrupt for 1 second, that's actually interesting that you mentioned that, at least on the spiritual level, animals, or dogs in this case, are not colorblind, because that's something we all heard, right? And science, I guess, or whatever it is that determines that, has fed us that information and said, hey guys, we've done our experiments, trust our findings, this is what it is. So to hear another perspective in communicating and learning these animals from you, and you making that comment or that statement, is very interesting. Cool.
Well, it's interesting because I had no idea. I was researching all along just by telepathically communicating. So he tells me the color of the bag, and he said, there's rat poison in that. He goes, that's why I'm sick. I was like, excuse me?
What?
Right? That's what I said. That's what I said. And the lady went, oh my God, I had a feeling it was something with the food, but I didn't know. I said, well, do not feed him that because it's contaminated with rat poison. That's why he's getting sick. That's why usually if an animal eats rat poison, like somebody knows that it was applied, nobody knew. Because she didn't have anything in her barn. P.S. She stops feeding the dog the food. She gets some new food. She calls me back in a week. She said, he's perfectly fine.
Well, I'm wondering if the dog knew that was happening. Why did the dog keep eating it? Because it was the only food source? Okay. Wow, that's interesting. So, wow, I just want to take a moment to ask that. I guess I don't know if it was a dumb question, but it was just like,
Not a dumb question. No.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
here's the most interesting thing that I find about all of this, right? Because remember, I started this like 30 plus years ago. So we've progressed since then, sort of. But like 30 plus years ago, people were like, you, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
right? And so it's like, no, this is actually real. But the interesting thing that I find now is like, but this is what all of the indigenous cultures have always told us. And we're talking thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. Like, this has always been the way that it is. In the last couple hundred years, we've diminished animals to commodities, things to be able to sell, food. So if you really understand, and that's why a lot of kids, little kids, but when they make the connection, oh my God, this turkey is like that live money. I don't want to eat that. Right. That's why a lot of kids, they already know they're like, I don't want to eat my friends. But because of the society that we created, well, you're not going to make as much money if people are like, I don't really need to eat meat and I don't really want to, right? So a lot of this information it's not my, I didn't discover anything. I just started tapping in and remembering what the truth is of how the planet actually works. That's not a convenient perspective when you're running a business and an industry that makes billions and billions of dollars off of the slaughter of animals or off of the sale of animals, and we've somehow forgotten and disconnected, like, oh, it's okay to sell somebody's kids. It's okay to impregnate a mare and doesn't even know the father, just inseminate her. It's okay to take another mare's eggs and impregnate a different mare because that mare's in competition. But then I mean, as I started going through it after a long time of doing this and really understanding things from the animals' perspectives, especially having a wolf dog and especially having a wild mare that lived on the range and having her and her kids and understanding things from a totally different perspective, it blew my mind. So, I've gone from not remembering any of it to being introduced to it again and starting to remember, to having 3 decades worth of research with all different kinds of animals all over the planet. And I mean, the work that I do now, the quantum and unified field healing I do now, with being able to see an animal on the screen and do body assessments, like everything was just an evolution of remembering who I am, who they are, the inner technology that we possess, what is all of our original language. So the journey has been just this progressive journey of remembering, and I'm still remembering. Like, I learn every single session I do. I learn something new.
And it's not.
I remember something more.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you also made a comment that you're still learning, right? Because I don't want, we don't want like folks to think just one day she just started talking to animals and here she is, right? I mean, there's levels to this, there's
Totally
things that you had to go through. And also just the fact that you had to, as you learn things, you probably step back a little bit and say, is this really happening? Like, you're questioning yourself, right? Talk to me about those moments that you've had.
I'm laughing because, like, when I started, I took a trip with 2 girlfriends to Maine, and Maine is beautiful. I mean, I was like, oh my God, this is why they call it such a pristine state. We were right on the water, and there was this yellow, like, finch kind of bird. And so I was sitting there and I'm just saying, all right, if this animal communication stuff is really real, right, then I'm going to ask you to go from this branch to this branch.
That's fair. Yeah.
Fair, right? He does. And I'm like, all right. Like, if this is really, 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 really real, then go to that brand. And he does. So we did this about 14 times. And he just was like, you're exhausting. I was like, sorry.
Why was the bird doing it? Why was it doing it?
Because he was trying to show me, like, hello, this is real. But at that point in time, I was kind of, learning about this, practicing it, knowing in my being that it was real. But, we're indoctrinated pretty well, right? So because I couldn't understand, I mean, I could observe what was happening and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is so amazing. But then my conditioned mind kept going for the logical and reasonable or rational because I was like, I get that this is happening. I'm observing it happening, but I'm not. It was like the first time I realized on this planet, unless they tell you what to think, you are not supposed to think or recognize anything outside of that box. It's like the Truman Show, And so that was really one of those. I mean, I apologized when he left. I was like, I'm sorry. But, I was one of those people who's like, I need the proof. I need the proof. Like, now I just laugh when people are like, you communicate with animals. I'm like, you don't? What's the matter with you? Because this is, because I have clients that come to me that are, they've seen 5 trainers. Nobody can get to the root of the problem. They've been to the vet 6 times. Blood work shows nothing. So it's been this progressive remembering, starting with my fitness training and then going into understanding Chinese medicine and how the system functions at an energy level, and then practicing Qigong, and then recognizing, holy crap, this is quantum physics. Like, quantum physics has only been around for 80, 90 years, but the Tao has been around for thousands of years, right?
And you explain to those folks what is the Tao.
So the Tao was basically developed by a philosopher named Lao Tzu. So we're going back 5,000 years. And he started to understand that there is an energy. We talk about frequencies, right? So there is an energy field. Some people call it God. They called it the Tao. And the Tao is not a religion. It's a way of understanding how everything operates on this planet, like laws of polarity, right? Laws of observation of how things grow, that there is an invisible energy, an intelligence. Some people have named that God, but you know how polarized everybody is now with religion and God. So the Tao is totally non-polarizing. It explains how everything in the universe actually works. So it really kind of is for at least this 5,000 to 6,000 year time period that we're in right now. It really gives an explanation of the science of observation and understanding how everything is energy and everything is interconnected. The quantum sciences now, quantum physics, quantum entanglements, quantum mechanics, they're basically, in modern day terms, marketing something that has always been known. And I just sit there sometimes and I laugh and I'm like, oh my God, if these physicists would just study Qigong, like, because remember too, in the last couple hundred years, all of our sciences have become very reductionistic. So when we talk frequency, your podcast is called Beyond the Frequency 369, right? So when Tesla was explaining to them how things actually work, they needed to quantify it in a way that they could use it for profit.
Exactly.
And Tesla was freeing everything, saying, what are you guys doing? We were given free energy. I mean, the past couple of days, I've had these just interesting awarenesses about like the utility companies and taxes and the things that have become like these almost membership models. You got to pay to play when everything was given to us for free. I mean, think about how the animals operate. My wild mare wasn't like, I need water. Let's turn on the faucet. The herd was like, cool, we got to find the water source.
Isn't that interesting how like we as humans, Homo sapiens, we are the only species on this planet that has to pay to live.
Right?
Like
that was a pretty damn good indoctrination for to question it all. We have the potential.
We do.
Have the potential. We are clearly not achieving our highest potential as humans.
Absolutely. I completely agree with this. So let me ask you this question here. So for those that never experienced what you do, talking to their pets and other animals, how do you actually connect with an animal on the soul to soul level? Like, tell us a little bit about what's happening in that moment.
A great question. Like I'm not, it's like kind of thought about it sometimes, but I'm like, why question it? I just do it.
Yeah, try for those that need, please.
I'm going to back it up a little bit because even the people that would go, well, I don't communicate with my animals can't talk. I will guarantee you that every single person that has an animal that they take care of, because I don't even want to call them pets, an animal that they are a guardian to. Every single person has had a moment where all of a sudden they were like, whoa, something just happened. And I felt something or I heard something or I saw something. And then they went, no, animals can't talk. I guarantee it. So how I'm going to answer your question is there's not anybody on the planet that hasn't experienced it. They just didn't know what they were experiencing or maybe what to make of it. Because again, that indoctrination box is really, really thick. And even if they had their own experience of it, they're going to default back to animals can't talk. Right?
I love that answer. That makes perfect sense.
So then the next part of that to fully answer your question is, well, how does it happen? We are energy. Before we're anything, even before we're frequency, it's energy. The way that energy moves becomes the frequency and the signal that particular energy in Cesar, in Allecia, in my dog, in my horse, the frequency becomes that signal that's being given out, how it resonates. But at the base level, we are all energy. We're all cells, trillions and trillions of cells that coagulate. Now, one thing that physics is telling us now, which the Tao has known because it says everything is energy, everything's connected. Well, now physics is saying everything is like 99.9% energy. Okay, no shit, Sherlock. You guys are a little late to the show. So what happens now is, okay, we've been cut off from all of that awareness, right? Even though it's true, even though it's what we are, we've been indoctrinated. No, you're going to know what we want you to know because it's a conditioned system that likes to profit off of people not remembering who they are. So if 99.9% of stuff is energy, and think about it, what do we typically focus on? The physicality of each other, right? That's the thing we focus on. But pull back for a minute and it's like, well, wait a second, there's a whole lot more space than there is actually physicality.
Yeah.
And all of that is an interconnected, unified energy field. And there is a part of physics that is talking about the unified energy field. So for me, how I got to it was because I knew nothing about energy. And then I have, this woman that's teaching me how to meditate and like get in touch with things. And then I have chiropractic appointments and I feel different. It takes me a little while to connect that I feel different because my energy was getting stuck inside my body. And then when it opened back up, I felt better. Then I started understanding about Qigong. And every single time I practice these gentle movements, I feel more and more relaxed. I feel my energy flowing better. I feel like, why am I starting to hear the animals now? Why, precognition, like, why am I seeing things before they happen, and deja vu? And why was it when I was in this crop circle that I could feel things, that I could remember things that I never, ever was educated or taught about?
Yeah.
So now I start realizing that everything's energy. I start communicating with the animals. I start doing some body work with the animals. And I'm like, this is crazy. This animal wasn't feeling well. How are they feeling better now? I was in my I was probably like 25 or 26. My golden retriever had gotten hurt. And so he went to catch a frisbee and he landed straight down on his tailbone. Like his feet did not catch him. So we walked home, but then he got paralyzed and I flipped out. It was like, I don't know. I mean, he's only like 4. I don't know what's going to happen. So went to a doctor that was a chiropractor, went to a vet that also did acupuncture. So we started there, and then we were at my ex-husband's house for a couple of days because it was just easier than having to be in an apartment and go up and down an elevator. So I just started getting this awareness from him. He said, do you remember the Qigong meridian therapy that your friend was doing? He's like, why don't you touch my back on those points? I was like, okay. And I started doing exactly what I remember her doing to my body. I start doing this and he starts like moving his back a little bit. I'm going,
Twitching a little bit, huh?
yeah. And then by the 4th day, he got up. And, energy was kind of stuck for a while, but he started moving. And then he lived a completely normal life. And that's so the animal communication piece was one part. The working with bodies and wait a minute, like, I'm not a doctor, right? So I don't know the anatomy, the physiology, the way things work, but I'm understanding energy. And even though I don't understand all the parts that my friend is touching on my body, I'm like, but something intuitive was really waking up. And I was like, I have nothing to lose, right? And when I saw that happen, when I saw him get up, you sit there and you think about miracles. But miracles actually have a science. When you understand the energy at that level, which pretty much all of Western medicine has been shut down to, you start to go, well, wait a second. It's not that there's nothing else to do. You just don't know what else to do because you aren't taught about that. So, here I am following this path from 5 years old. I wanted to help animals heal. Had no clue because, again, the box, the only way I'm going to help animals heal is if I'm a vet. That's it. And then this path starts unfolding for me. And I have to say, too, the path unfolded not because I was so joyous and so happy and everything was so wonderful. I was miserable being on this planet. I wanted to die. Like, I didn't want to be here anymore. I had no idea why. I had a car accident when I was 16. And I was on the right side of the road. And I had looking at the radio for too long. And I hit the lip of the highway. And my car careened into the divider, and literally, like, watching my 16-year-old life flash before me, before my eyes. There's oncoming traffic. I smash into the divider, total the car, and somehow the car has enough spin to land me on the side of the road facing the traffic, and I didn't get touched. But I had this life flash before my eyes, which I had never had before. And I'm pretty sure when I look back, I didn't know any of this at the time. I'm pretty sure I had whiplash.
Do you think that you had like a near death maybe?
I definitely had my life flash before my eyes. Now, I have also had near-death experiences. I've had 3 of them.
Okay.
But this was like the first one that it was like, because I was so miserable and so upset, and I had my life flash before my eyes, and I had this shaking of my brain. I was probably depressed before that, but I kind of like something got shook in me. And I remember my father and I used to have these conversations, and I was like, what's the point of life? Because it was the first time I was like, oh my God, I could actually die, right? I wasn't scratched. The car was totaled, But something got shaken to start asking these questions at 16. Why are we here? What are we doing here? What is the point of even being here? And my dad would do his best to answer, that question. But that's really what started my journey. It was the depression. It was the being absolutely miserable, like not even understanding, why am I crying so much? What is wrong with me? That these were not things that I had considered before. It was not even things that I thought about. And so when I look back now, so many things make sense because I was being led on a path. So even when, working with the dog, I wasn't sitting there going, oh yeah, I remember I wanted to be I wanted to help animals heal. I just kept following it. I just kept following it. And as I followed it, when I finally got my PhD, and that was not on my bucket list at all, I was like, me have a PhD? That's hilarious. That's really hilarious. That would be the great irony of being on this planet.
So you were given your path by, I guess, with the assistance of animals, which is the last thing you would have ever thought about doing.
I never have thought about it.
That is huge. The whole getting the PhD situation, you needed to get that in order so you can be a vet? Is that?
No. So I'm not a vet. I have a PhD in philosophy. A degree is holistic life counseling. And when I had done a master's. So it's a metaphysical university. So it's not like your MIT and your Harvard. They're what I have learned, what I have discovered, there are very strict and rigorous studies done on a lot of things because a lot of the science is totally paid for. They want the science to turn out a certain way so they can conduct certain research so that they can say, this is scientifically backed. But the problem is they call it rigorous study, but they've separated science into like this mechanistic thing that they show you a piece of paper and say, this is the analysis and this is what happened. And then these are the side effects. They took out spirit.
Yeah, they
So
did.
science, and this will really kind of blow your mind with how the PhD happened. Science, what its real premise is, it's a process of inquiry. So you have a hypothesis, you set up a study to test out, does that hypothesis really jive? And then you record your results. And based on your results, you're like, hey, this is either helpful or harmful. So how they've gotten away with the COVID crap, with the results are proving how harmful it is. You cannot call it science if you do not report your results properly.
Right.
So the science, I don't trust your science. I trust the science of the animals.
Yeah.
So science has always been, like if we go back 5,000 years, the monks lived in the forest. They studied everything. How Chinese medicine even came about was the study of the animals in the forest. What things did they eat when they didn't feel well? How did they stretch? How did they teach their young when they weren't feeling well? What plants did they go after? How did this whole system work naturally, not synthetically? So as I was growing and learning and understanding all of these things, like over time, remembering, when they asked me to do this PhD study, I had done a previous master's degree through the Metaphysical University because metaphysics combines science of observation and spirit. Right? To me, that's a much broader science than we're just going to study this little thing and and all we discovered. And then a year later, they're like, guess what else we discovered? It's like, well, if you would have done the science in a complete way, you would have known that like they did 5,000 years ago. But okay. So my study back then was researching the effects of Tai Chi on teenage boys, high school boys with ADD and ADHD. I didn't realize at the time, the way that the program was set up, that I could pay for, as I was making payments to do my work, I had also paid for a PhD research study to get my PhD. When I was pulled over on the side of that road listening to these horses and they said, do your PhD, I said, all right, I hear you. Thank you for laying all of this out for me. I get it. Can I have a day to think about it? And they said, sure. So that was on a Sunday. Monday, I called my school and I said, okay, if I decided that I wanted to do a PhD study, how much would it cost? They said, you've already paid for it. When you did your master's, we were just waiting for you to. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
Now, one thing that I did find out, which I found interesting, was according to most PhDs, you don't actually have to do a research study. You just have to have a hypothesis. You pull together all this information from all these other people. You're making an assumption about things. Then that you're proving, based on this research, this is what it is. The horses were like, so I didn't know. I was like, but don't you actually have to do a study? They were like, no. So, well, let me ask you this. Can I do a study? Because this is what the horses told me that I was going to do to, do all this stuff. So they said, yeah, we can approve that. So it was on Zoom and it was working with horses that I never knew. Nobody knew anything about me. Nobody knew what I was going to do. And through the session, they said video everything. So I videoed everything so you could see through the session. You could see how they were at the beginning, what their stresses were, what was going on. And you could literally see I would touch certain points. They would react, they would yawn, but their behaviors completely changed within the 1 hour that I was working on them. And they were like different beings and there was no training involved. And there was not even any touch involved.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that part, when you asked before, how did it happen? Continuously practicing Qigong, recognizing everything's energy. And then it was like, well, wait a minute. Energy then can be anywhere and you can affect things anywhere. Told you I was born in Albert Einstein Hospital. Albert Einstein, who was studying quantum physics, quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance. He thought that's weird. Things can't. I'm me, who fails every math and science class. I'm proving quantum entanglements.
Yeah.
Great distances. So I agree. I get all my case studies done. I worked with 27 different horses. And a lot of science case studies, it's very interesting. They test like 5 or 6 things, at least in the veterinary world, and say, oh, this is the science. You only tested 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So going through the whole entire process of this was fascinating. The first 6 months, I had all my case studies done. Then I couldn't write the paper, and I didn't understand why. It's like, what is wrong? Like, I can write. Finally, I decide I got to do something. And I have a friend who does past life regression. So I said, all right, well, I have nothing to lose. I mean, I don't even know what we're going to find or whatever. Turns out, he regressed me. And I'm a Hermetic philosopher and scientist in the 1400s in Turkey.
Go figure.
Right? And I'm about to go into town to tell the people, you don't need the clergy. You got a direct connect with God. You don't need them. They're a middleman. And they're not actually even telling you the truth. They're not letting you know your true power, that you are directly connected with source. Well, apparently, as I was going into town, I got jumped by 3 priests and I got killed. And I saw the entire thing.
The priest.
The priest. I got cut open. They branded my heart. And I looked at them. And the last thing I said was, you can't brand God out of people. No, I don't have any obvious memory of this ever.
Yeah.
Nor was I like, I don't know. I guess maybe past life regression works. Maybe it doesn't. After I had that experience, within 3 months, my paper was written and submitted.
Wow. So wait, so just to understand that, you, because of the regression or the past life regression,
Because of my fear of dying and being killed and seeing that I was killed for telling the truth, I did not know that what I would be bringing forward in this research is the proof of quantum entanglements, is the truth of the capacities that we have and the proof of it. And so underlying, as I'm writing this and understanding this, and I've lived this for years, I'm not realizing the fear is they're going to kill me if I tell the truth, that the science that we've been indoctrinated to in it.
and this is why you couldn't write your thesis or whatever before, because you had this blocked emotion or whatever the case is. Wow, that's huge. First of all, let me just thank you for sharing that, because it really kind of sums up your, let's just call it your origin story, and all of these experiences that you've shared thus far has been more of kind of letting us know that you didn't just wake up and just start talking to animals. This has been like 20, 30 years.
I mean, I had it when I was a kid, but then it got Crush.
Yeah, yeah, and we all have it, right? We all have it. You actually went through the journey of opening that up, where other folks were not going through the journey, right? Where everyone is just kind of living their life, and then they're looking at you and saying, like, "Well, what makes you special?" Well, so are you. I just put in the work,
Exactly.
Let me ask you this though. Like offline, you had spoken to me about foster tissue.
Fascia.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Introduce that to folks so they understand what that's about and how that works.
Okay. So when I was studying as a fitness trainer, right, understanding and the things that I learned were anatomy and physiology to what we understand it from the physical form of how Western medicine works. When I started understanding and learning about chiropractic care, because I was undergoing chiropractic care, when I started learning about Chinese medicine and Qigong and started to realize, yes, we have this whole physical structure. Yes, we have these organs and we have these bones and muscles and nerves and arteries and all of that. What actually is the batteries that makes it all work? I always thought it was food, right? You put food in, that's your energy. But how come people can go for a month at a time, not eat? How do they go for a week, just drinking water? How can they go for a few days without even drinking water? So as I started having these awarenesses and understandings, like from the animals, and started remembering, hey, this isn't just read what they tell you and accept it. It's start remembering how to ask questions. Now, when I was a kid, I got in trouble a lot because my parents would say something and I'd go, but why? And they give me one answer, but why? And they give me a second answer. And by the third time, it was like, because I said so. So they didn't really have an answer that was truly valid, that satisfied, like, oh, all right, I can understand that now. So somewhere in me, even though I didn't understand math and science, like I wanted to understand truth. I didn't know that at the time. But, even now I will tell people, it's like, it doesn't matter what I know. It just matters that I can listen deeply and I'm aware enough to hear what the animal is saying is taking place. I don't care about being right. I just care about what's their truth. So when I started I had that incident with my golden retriever. 10 years later, I'm living in Aspen, Colorado, and I get called in to work with a healer dog. And the people are like, look, we don't understand what's going on. He's the greatest dog. He's amazing. But now he's like, we take him for a walk and he's like snapping at everybody. And I was like, all right, well, do you mind if I take the dog for a walk by myself? Let me just see, is it something going on with you guys? Is something going on with So I take the dog for a walk and he's kind of snappy a little bit. And I just kind of looked at him, and it's helpful when you can telepathically communicate because I'm like, dude, what's up? And he said, I don't have a behavior problem. And I was like, what country are unfair? I think you do because I see it. He goes, I don't have a behavior problem. I was like, do tell. And he said, my back hurt. I was like, interesting. I'm listening. He said, do you remember how you helped your golden retriever? 10 years apart,
Yeah.
never met,
How do you
never.
know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, kind of. He goes, well, do you remember how you put your hands on his back? Yes, I do. He said, could you do that for me? Sure. So we're walking on a path, there's people, dogs, everything. So I start working on his back and I get to this one point, like just below the mid part of his back. And he kind of turns and he looks at me and he's like, that hurts. And I was like, okay, let me just see if I can release it. I release it. He takes a big deep breath. We keep walking. We walk back to the house. The people go, what happened? What happened? I'm not fully out of the closet yet and want to tell them, your dog told me. I was like, did you know your dog has a pain in his back? They almost went like ghost white. And they were like, you touched his back? I was like, was I not supposed to touch his back? And they said, well, if we have to touch his back, we put a muzzle on him. Trying to get to tell the trainer. Just saying. Just saying. So I said, well, the thing is, your dog had a tightness in his back and I released it. And as soon as I released it, he's fine. Dog
They're
was
like,
completely.
released it. What are you talking about?
So that started me with looking at the muscles that go over the spine and are on the sides of the spine. That's what the animals started having me look at. And eventually, I've been doing that for a while. Like miraculous results, like aggressive animals. The people would be talking to me. I would just be checking the animal's back and seeing what was going on. By the time we got outside, the people were like, what'd you do to my dog? I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, they would have barked by now. They would have. So I started making the connection. Hold on a minute. The animals were telling me a lot of our behaviors, the first place to check is our body. Don't just fix the behavior, check our body, because usually because something is out of alignment in the body, it's going to block up energy. If it blocks up energy, that energy also affects its corresponding organ. So let's just say it's right below the shoulder blades and maybe we're in the liver area. Well, you might have a very barky dog if there's excess stress at that spot, because if the back is out, if the muscles are too tight, it's going to restrict liver energy. So if the dog's stressed, now they're going to bark.
So the barking of the animals, is it, and random people and whatnot, is it just to grab someone's attention to say I'm hurt?
It can be. It can also be stress, right? Now, not just the stress of the animal, it could also be the stress of the human that the animal's picking up. And if the animal's back is out of alignment, maybe they were playing with another dog, they banged into each other. Maybe they jumped out of a car and they just caught themselves funny, right? So I'm understanding, okay, release the muscle, and then we've got total changes in behavior, right? And I'm observing this and I'm researching this because I'm a trainer and I want to address the truth. Why is the animal actually doing this? So I started doing this more and more. The dogs show me the exact points to touch. I assessed probably close to like 900 dogs with this. I created a harness and leash training system. I help people work with their dogs to walk on leash totally easily with a system that fit properly. And I keep researching this back thing. And then the horses come in and they're like, do this with us too. And then the horses showed me also points on the face to touch and then points on the belly. So when I kind of started going past the back and the muscle, the animal started teaching me about fascia tissue. So fascia tissue basically sits right underneath our skin. It's almost like a cotton candy-like substance. And it's what holds everything in place. It's almost like the saran wrap, right? That holds everything in place. So if you land up getting cut, all your insides don't fall out because you got fascia tissue. And then that's before you hit bone. So now they're teaching me, hey, you don't even have to touch us. You can work off body. You can release our fascia tissue. And if you follow all the points that we tell you to touch, well, it's going to be an entire body release for us. So I don't know much about fascia tissue. I haven't studied in any of my anatomy and physiology stuff. I'm learning directly from the animals, right?
That part is a little bit mind blowing, and I want to acknowledge that you've never heard of fascia tissue. I've never heard of fascia tissue.
It's not that I didn't hear of it. I just had no idea of the role that it played and the significance, because I had never read a science book on it. I had never studied it with a teacher. I didn't fully understand it. But when they started having me do these releases, and they're like, now we're helping you understand in terms of their world. And you got to remember how they think, what they know, what they understand. We think in a linear way, right? And we think in boxes. They're aware of 360 degrees. So when they're showing me a lot of these things, again, I asked for the interpretation to be in English, right? So, because I had to be able to put these dots together if I'm going to speak to humans and educate them about it. So when something would happen, I would like feel it. I would sense it and be like, oh my God, that was so cool. And then the explanation would come in. So I'm learning, and I'm still learning about the amazingness of fascia tissue. But it was so cool learning from the animals. When I started my Qigong practice, I did a lot of reading about a lot of things, a lot of subjects. And after a while, I was like, I don't think that that's the best way for me to learn. I would have an experience, and then I would, a book would show up. I'd hear something and I'm like, holy crap, that's universal truth. Because how else could I know it? I didn't read it from the book. So when I started working with the animals, I would have these experiences and say, okay, look, this is what I'm understanding, observing. But if it's really true, then I need to see it somewhere else that can confirm it. So that's eventually how I started learning for like the last, 15 to 18 years. I don't really read books anymore. I work with the animals. They'll show me something. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know how that works. And then I'll see somehow, there's a research paper. So I'm like, okay, cool. We're on the right track. They were helping me learn to trust. It's okay to know things without having read it in a book. It's okay to remember that this information And you don't have to have, like, you know how some kids could do math tests and one kid lays out the whole thing, another kid just gets the right answer, and the teacher's like, well, how did you get to that?
Right.
That
Right.
that was what
I love that you said that, Allecia, because I've also mentioned to a lot of folks in my own conversations is that people always say that the best way to learn was always reading books, but I think you and I can agree it's about experiences. You
exactly.
learn from experiences, you know?
Let me tell you, there are so many, as I've been doing this work for like the last 30 years, I mean, there's so many things that are not taught. So when the animals that come to me after 5 trainers, after, 6 vets, nobody can get to the root of it. And they're teaching me about fascia tissue. They're teaching me that this cannot feel. This can only think. So you can run brain scans and you can see things lighting up, but the information doesn't come into here. The information actually comes into the fascia tissue that's got tons of receptors that feel the field. And then that information goes right to the gut brain. And then that information hits the nervous system. It hits how we breathe. And then that information goes up to the brain. So
Fascinating.
it's so fascinating because I was looking at neuroscience and the animals keep telling me all the time, the neuroscience is backwards. You don't study this brain. You study this brain if you want to control it.
Yeah.
But if you really want to know how the system works, how the instincts work, how somebody is independent, not dependent on the system, you study gut brain. That's why they've wanted to shut down all of the information on Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, all of the medicines connected to nature.
Yeah.
Because we're instinctual first, not brain first.
They're trying to shut it down. They want to disconnect, they want to they know, the elites know how powerful that is, but that does not make them money.
Exactly.
It's not profitable. So they're like, let's cut this out and let's keep the sheep being sheep, and we'll let them know what's right and what's wrong for them.
That's why you are not supposed to remember stuff
Yeah. Yep.
that you didn't learn in a book. Because now, again, I have all these people that come from all over the world and they're like, well, this didn't work. Can you help? Can you help? And we're just seeing results that are like off the charts. Now, like, how does this stuff work? Well, it works because once we get past this veil of indoctrination and we remember, like, all I'm doing is remembering, oh shit, we are totally telepathic. Shit, we can work with energies at distances. Shit, we can call rain when we need it. Like, wait a minute. All of these things that we're told we're not, and we're indoctrinated into this system that's like your 9-to-5 job and da, 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 da. All of this stuff is like blowing off like chunks. It's just like, it's an amazing experience when we get out of the box of separation and we really start to remember the totality. And so for me, when you asked about the fascia tissue, I didn't know that I was going to be working with that. And what's interesting is the animals show me certain things, and then my brain starts, because it understands anatomy and physiology, it starts connecting all these dots. So I'll call veterinarians like in Europe because they're so much more progressed, and I'll have conversations and say, look, everybody's talking about water now, right? Dr. Emoto, the images of water. Beta Austin, waters, has intelligence. What the animals taught me was the water is just the carrier. The intelligence is the thing that I've been studying for 33 years, which is the chi. And what moves through the fascia tissue is chi. And I was kind of struggling a little bit because I was like, all right, not because it's me, but I'm seeing such progressive shifts that I'm not seeing that anyone else that's like a veterinarian or a trainer happen when I work with an animal. So why? What is it? Is it the chi? Because I understand chi. Is it? And then I'm understanding from the fascia tissue, because fascia tissue also has intelligence, right?
Mm.
Our whole body is intelligence.
Yeah.
So with
Yes.
the animals, I keep understanding the intelligence. So now the fascia tissue is telling me when our fascia tissue gets tight or compressed, it's like saran wrap that was like perfect and now it's crinkly. We don't absorb nutrition as well. We don't absorb water as well. So as I'm working with the fascia tissue and I'm seeing these ridiculous results, like a horse that had a really dried out coat at the beginning of our session, So at the end of the session, now he's got like rainbow shine. The eyes are bright. They're moving like amazing, or they're running around when they hadn't for like months. Like, I'm questioning this, right? Because I'm like, I want to understand this. And then I started understanding in talking with the fascia tissue. The fascia tissue is like, as soon as you open us, if fascia tissue is tight, it can restrict where the bones are sitting, right? So if the bones are sitting in a funny position, it could be affecting the nerves. It could be compressing on that. And so blood flow won't happen as easily. But when you open the fascia tissue, because I started with muscle work, because it's what I understood, but then they were like, oh, no. We need to show you something much different and much bigger. When I started working with the fascia tissue, I was like, this seems to be like the master neural network of the entire body. Because we're always taught, right? It's the brain, you got to start. And I'm like, the fascia tissue actually controls the brain.
I got a question about that. Like,
Hold
Go
that
ahead.
question for 1 second. I just need to turn on my AC.
Go. Yeah.
Okay, go.
Yeah. No, what do you? What do you?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I got my AC too as well. Okay, so I got one more question about that. You mentioned again the foster tissue being this layer. I've seen on movies where like they peel back the scalp and then there's this very thick membrane over the brain. Is that the foster tissue?
It is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure that I was
Yes.
seeing what you were talking about, and for everybody else that's thinking about like what exactly is that. Okay, cool. So I think we've all seen that in movies, that little like
Layer.
sticky like layer and everything.
Exactly.
I love that. And so Allecia, for the interest of time, I want to ask you about two different little topics here. What is it that you do right now on your day-to-day? I know you have like your own TV show, and you bring in client. Like, talk to us a little bit about that, so that way the audience that has been fascinated by what you've been talking about, they have a little bit more understanding of, okay, we understand where she's from, and her journey, where's she at today and what's she doing, and could I use some of her services?
So I work with animals over long distances. I've also trained students to be able to do this work. So I teach people how to remember, how to reawaken their telepathic abilities. I teach people how to remember how to touch their animals in a way that helps them really connect and release tight fascia tissue in person. Like they can do it in person, and then they can also do it over long distances. I'm an award-winning author. I'm an award-winning TV host and filmmaker. And in 2020, I started this series called Animal Healer TV. So I'd work with a client. Then I had an editor, and we'd show before, and we'd do like a little TV show along the lines of like how Cesar Milan, constructed his show. Like, okay, what was happening? You see the changes as I'm working on the animal, and then the person reports back about the changes and stuff like that. They can see it for themselves. They can feel it for themselves. And then the animals hit me with, and by the way, because of quantum entanglements, not only is the human also healing while you're releasing the animal's fascia tissue, but anybody else that's on live or watching the replay is also healing. So
Interesting.
it's fascinating. I mean, seriously, it is fascinating that.
Well, sorry, let me just ask something here. I feel like I'm compelled to ask you this question on behalf of the viewers and the listeners. How does the animals know things about TV, YouTube, like way to share this message with people? Like, how do they know about this stuff?
Because they're a lot more conscious than we ever give them credit for. Remember when we started with, because of the society that we live in and how we've made them a commodity and that kind of stuff, we relegate them down in a lot of ways to the consciousness of like a car. Like, I would never get on a horse's back ever, ever, ever again without saying, are you okay with this? Can I check your body first? Like, I don't have the desire to ride anymore after I've been studying, and, I just moved to this farm and we just keep conducting like more and more scientific research because I can conduct it every day, because it's that we don't have to set up this rigorous testing. It's like we're just exploring the natural science of how everything works. The science that we have now is a science, like you said, it's about profit. It has nothing to do with nature. It has nothing to do with observational science, which all of us have a literal God-given right to experience, right? And then especially when you do science and you don't even report your studies, and you're killing millions of people, maiming millions of people, injuring tons of people, that's not science.
Science. That's
That is
something.
not science. That is not the science of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
That's the artificial intelligence science that makes you believe things like, oh, the person in the white coat knows better about your body than you do. It's like, no, they don't.
Right.
Because they're not going to
Right.
ask my liver, so what's up? And my liver's like, well, you're kind of stressed about da 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 da, so that's why we're having the problem. Where I ask an animal's body, so what's up, with your kidney levels? And they're like, well, it's actually coming because I banged my face, and this is the start of the kidney meridian. And then they can walk me through and tell me the whole thing, and I can explain to the people. And then the people are able to put together these pieces. I mean, we had that yesterday, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know this stuff. They know this stuff. So part of my research work is the consciousness of animals. And, in terms of fascia tissue, most of the studies on fascia tissue are done on cadavers. If chi, which is the vital life force that runs through everybody's bodies, and it's different than blood, it's part of blood, but it isn't blood, it's the energy that even inhabits blood. If you're studying fascia tissue on a dead being, then how do you actually know what it does when it's live? How do you actually know? Right. That's why I talk with the animals, because this way it's experimenting in a way, no harm, only healing, and getting the direct information from the original teachers of humanity about how our bodies, how our planet even works.
See, I didn't even think about that until we started talking about that. And it's like, if in order to experiment on something that's alive, more than likely at some point you're gonna hurt it. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't really know how to actually like do it the right way. So you're always hurting those things that are alive. And then when something is dead, well,
It's fun.
not a whole lot you can learn. You can learn about that moment when it's dead after the fact, but while it's living its life, you just there's not a whole lot you can, oh well, what did it use? I don't know, what did it used to eat? Well, you can see what's in his stomach today, but you know what I mean? Like,
that's why they
it doesn't make
observed,
sense.
like the monks in the forest would observe
Yeah.
the native peoples, the indigenous peoples. They watched what the animals did. They watched what they ate. They watched all of it. And that's why they have so much more natural science knowledge that our current Rockefeller medicine science has tried to I mean, I appreciate it as emergency medicine. It's
Sure.
great for that. It's about 10%
I
of the
like that term, emergency. I love that.
Right?
Emergency medicine. Like,
what it
hey, I need something real. I need a shortcut.
It's emergency medicine because you got something, your spleen just blew up, you lacerated, you got to get stitched up, you got to get a bone set. Great.
Yeah.
But none of Western medicine ever gets you to the root of what the problem is.
No,
It's all separated out. So you want to go to the dog trainer for this, go to the vet for this, go to this person for this, just like our bodies. You got the elbow person and you got the ear, nose, throat. I'm like, hello. When you give a shot in an arm, you got a filtration system. It's not going to stay in your left arm. Like, how could you be a doctor and even conceive of that? Because if that's your perspective, it's like you have no business being a doctor. None.
Yeah, some
None.
folks right now are just kind of thinking back like, wow, I didn't even think about this. There are so many doctors for specific parts of your body. So there's a general practice doctor that who knows what they know, right? And then you have a specific person for the eye and everything. And then that person gets stuck at some point and says, you know what, I don't really know. And they call it, and what's your thoughts about this? They call it a general practice for a reason.
So
before,
yes, the whole practice piece completely. Before Rockefeller medicine started controlling the narrative and pushing all this bullshit about, they're a quack medicine, blah, blah, blah. This whole entire medical system was, you have a general practice, you have a family practitioner. They know all about the entire body. We had more osteopaths, we had more chiropractors, we had more naturopaths. That's who was the doctors for. And if you needed surgery, you had surgery. But you went to one person. One person saw mom, dad, the kids. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox. And he, this kid comes in and he's like, do this, that, do. And then the old doc comes in, he goes, give him a Coke. He's got heartburn. He needs to burp. Right?
Right.
So it's not, medicine has gotten more complicated, but if you actually look at the statistics, it's far worse. We're far sicker. We're not healthier. And they have spent God knows how many hundreds of billions of dollars. How come we're not cured research for cancer yet? Because cancer is a moneymaker for the humans and for the animals. I have my animals, thank God, knock wood, nobody's gotten cancer. I'm not going to get cancer because I understand Qigong, I understand Eastern medicine, and I understand energy flows. I also understood what was happening with the shots, and I was like, thanks. And so when you see the whole picture, so when I do my TV show weekly and we're showing, I know nothing really about the animal, it's just what's the question that the person has, right? Then I'll do the instinct body assessment and fascia release. And then while I'm doing that, I'm also getting telepathic information from the animal. So I'm picking up things, you can't read it on an x-ray. You can't read fascia tissue on an x-ray. You can't read this stuff on blood work. This is why so many animals, you bring the animal in, it's like, well, we're not seeing anything, but something's up with your animal because like that dog said to me, I don't have a behavior issue. I have a body issue. So that was on a very physiological level, but then we look at the energies, right? Why do I get results that other people don't get? And I'm not touting myself, oh, come see me. Please, I'd rather you watch the show and I'd rather teach you this stuff and you do it yourself. But remembering that so much of medicine is felt and connection, and that's what the fascia tissue actually provides us. It's the feeling that then goes to the gut brain. The gut brain recognizes, oh, it's this, and then it sends the information to the head brain to say, okay, well, you're the one that understands how to architect this stuff. But this is not the one that holds all the information. This is just the architect and the processor. And so the fascia tissue, it just tells us a lot, even communicates telepathically. Hey, this is what was stuck in my cells. This is where I hurt myself. This is where I jumped off the whatever. This is where I banged into so-and-so. The body remembers everything. Brain doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's this whole entire journey has been so fascinating. So now I do the TV show once a week. People are welcome to join. Just invite people on with their animal. And we get to go through the whole process together because I don't have any information on what's going on with the animal. I just have the question. But I'm able to walk us through, okay, here's what's happening now. Here's where I'm working on the animal's body. Here's what the animal knows. And if the person, it's very interesting because oftentimes when I'm working on the animal's body, at a very specific point, and it's different for everybody, but there's usually a specific point that I'm working with, and all of a sudden the person comes through with a question, and it is mind-blowing to me how the exact question they asked at that exact point on the animal's body is the exact answer they were looking for, that the animal knows what to share with the person.
Yeah.
So when you asked before, like, how do people know? We have all had that moment where like, oh, we thought about somebody they called. We looked at our animal and we were just like, oh, you need da 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 da. Or like, oh, you're not feeling well. So there's none of us on this planet that have not experienced telepathy. And even the game, like maybe you play this with your kids sometimes, think of a number from 1 to 10. That's telepathy.
Yeah.
It is simple as that, right?
Simplest form. Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, we're like even that simple game, we're not taught that it's anything magical and anything special. We're just, it's just some dumb thing that we do, but if we guess it,
that's telepathy. In its
I
simplest
like
form, right?
Yeah, I like that. No one's really actually used that as an example, but it definitely resonates. So again, what we're doing now here is I want to touch briefly on this one last topic here, and then we'll wrap things up, folks. And folks, if you are enjoying the show thus far and you are loving the conversation and learning more about this, is this like a modality, Allecia? Is that what you consider it, a modality? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're learning about this. Go ahead.
Well, it's like I said, so this has been a journey, right? And all I'm doing is just remembering how to connect the puzzle pieces. This is not anything I invented. This is not anything that I came up with. There's basis for all of this in all of the ancient teachings and wisdoms. I'm just bringing it forward in a way for us to understand it on a modern level as simply as possible. Because the equation, that Einstein would write on the board for like, oh, this is what quantum entanglements is. I don't understand that.
Right.
But what I'm doing is exactly what his equation says.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe I gained some of his spiritual DNA. I don't know, being born in his hospital that like,
Yeah.
I share your initials. Maybe I'm supposed to take your spooky action at a distance way further. Difference too with the work that I do as opposed to something like Reiki or energy healing. I am not sending these animals any energy. I'm actually not even sending any intention. I hold a space. Hey, I hold a space for your highest healing, but that's it. So each session working with the fascia tissue, each session just touching fascia tissue at a distance and saying, hey, you're tight here. Would you mind if I release that? Witnessing what happens on such a simple level of being able to be reconnected with the unified energy field, which is massively complicated science, except it's also super simple.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is.
We all have
And
it.
no, finish your thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, and we all come in with this. Now there's a big wave sweeping across. It's with the autistic children, and there's a podcast and a show, the telepathy tapes, right? And they're showing how autistic children are telepathic. Why do you think autistic children respond so well to animals? Because they understand each other. It's telepathy to telepathy, right?
That's something to think about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's fascinating because they make it so complex, and the complexity has to do with money, and it makes you think that somebody else is the authority. And I would never say, if you don't feel well or your animals don't feel well, don't go to the doctor. But I will say, if you've been to the doctor or you've been to the trainer a few times and they're going at it the wrong way, we need to address fascia tissue first to see if there's unrecognized pain.
Yeah.
That unrecognized pain could also be contributing to the energy flow not being as proper as it could be. That's why your animal might be behaving oddly, or they might not be feeling well. And you can literally use your own two hands to assess that, because you're not going to be able to, unless it's emergency, and you're picking your animal up right now and go to the vet. And if that is the case, you should absolutely be going. But if it's like they're not feeling well, at least I could show you ways and places to touch on their body that if it's an energy issue, and it's not showing up in the blood work or we don't know what to tell you. If it's an energy issue, I can help you unwind it. I can show you, I can help you remember. It's really this simple.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate you explaining that. And to just add on to what Allecia said, folks, no one's telling you to not, if you feel like you need to go see a veterinarian.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's what would actually be first. That would rule out, let them take the blood work, let them do the x-ray, let them, do a sonogram or an MRI.
Right.
But at least that way we have a base level of information. And if that information is not showing what is taking place, then we do, okay, let's take a look at the energy.
Right.
Because the energy will clear it up.
Yeah, this is just an alternative option when you feel like there is no other option, folks. So just keep that in mind. And I want to touch base on our experience from yesterday. So yesterday, folks, Allecia was kind and generous and gracious enough to give myself and my wife, Katie, a complimentary review on our two cats, Ziggy and Colby. I'll put them up on the screen here so you guys can see which one is which. So I just wanted to make sure that folks understand that we're not just talking and having this conversation about what Allecia can do. I've experienced it. My wife has experienced it. So yesterday, Allecia went ahead and reviewed our cat, Ziggy, and which, again, you guys will see here on the screen. And we actually went into it unsure of what was there going to be any results. We didn't really understand what the expectations was. What we honestly thought was, hey, how cool will it be to just know what's going on with our animal, if possible? That's it. Our animal is, as far as we know, he's healthy, he's happy and content, but It'd be nice to just be able to hear about it. And we did a Zoom call, and my wife was on as well, and I was on the other end too. And Allecia just needed me to keep the camera on the animals, so as she's doing her thing, we can see the animals, how they react, if they move, if they twitch, if they decide to play, whatever the case is. But aside from all of that, what was so outstanding from our experience was that Allecia knows nothing about our family, our cats, my kids, my wife, me, and she learned quite a bit, but not from us, from our cat. From our cat. So folks, your animals, in this case, my cat was taking notes and he just needed to be heard. And we originally just wanted to just know, is our animals happy, content, healthy, and things like that. And our cat ended up talking to Allecia, telling her, about our two kids, about why he is here, his purpose, pretty much, how he's helping myself and my wife, all of these things that really resonated with each of us in our own different way. But the most shocking part about all of this, even before we even started the session, was I brought the camera over to the cat so Allecia can see him. And in some kind of sense, Allecia was like, whoa, he's different. And here's what's funny. Before I tell you what the difference is, I have always made fun of this cat in a loving way that he's kind of weird. He's kind of like little dirt, he's always banging on the walls and things like that. He just, there's a vibe about my animal that's a little bit just kind of off. And I know, I'm pretty sure some of you out there has an animal. If you have more than one, that one's a little bit off, more than the other. And his name is Ziggy. My wife called him Ziggy as in Ziggy Stardust, the kitty from Mars. Okay. So we always thought about him being a space cat. And Allecia, when she made the comment about him being weird, she ended up telling us that that cat is an alien. Now,
said he's an alien. I said he's not from here.
Not from here. Okay, he's not from here. I'm saying he's an alien and everything, but from here, we eventually figured out that he's not a regular cat. And what I mean by that is I have two cats. So the other cat, which is Colby, which I'll put up here on the screen, according to Allecia, she felt his vibe. He's a regular cat. He's from Earth. But the other one, Ziggy, which you'll see on the screen as well, is not. So we went through that mindset as she did her thing. That just stuck in my mind. And folks and also I learned about his personality and he's humorous. He's how Allecia described it a very, very cool way was that he's not like slapstick funny, like stand-up comedian. He's very, very highly intelligent, but with that kind of humor.
Witty.
And witty, right?
Very witty.
And it was just amazing. And folks, the takeaway from all that we were done with the session and I'm with the cats, I'm telling you guys from firsthand experience from Cesar Pagan, I cannot look at my cat the same way that I did these past years that I've had him. There is, to be honest with you guys and be transparent, and this goes to the same with my wife. My wife loves them. They're really like her cats. But and to me, I just kind of, they became family. I love this cat now. He actually has more value to me than he did before. And after the session and Allecia did her back healing energetic work and things like that, this cat was around me the entire night. We were just hanging out. We were cool. And usually for those of you that own cats kind of do their own thing. We were hanging out. Folks, I don't hang out with cats. Okay. I don't do that. That's not me. But we were hanging out and we were having a good time. And I was talking to him. I said, now that I know what you are and who you are, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And I'm trying to do my best, Allecia, to listen to the animals with my gut.
Exactly.
As you had described it. And going with, and I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I'm going with the first, when I ask the cat a question, I go with the first feeling that I receive from it. And I just say, okay, that's it, right? That's it. And
easy too. but we've
Yeah.
been shut down, so we think it's just hard to process, and it's like, we're wired for it. Like, the
Yeah.
creator gave us this universal language. We
Yeah.
just have to remember it. It's not like you have to learn it. Sometimes we have to learn how to turn it back on. Like, we have to learn how to turn off this so we can just listen and trust ourselves again. But I love what you're doing, and just keep doing it. I can't wait to hear what you
Yeah.
have to say.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, folks. And just to wrap up that comment of my experience, it has Allecia had described how this healing also heals not only the animal but the owners as well. I can contest to that. There is a bond. My wife and I talked about it a few hours afterwards because she was processing it as well, and she was emotional. She was crying. She was crying because Allecia had relayed some information from our cat to her that she needed to hear. And again, like I said, I'm going to say it again. I feel different about the cat as well. And so everything that Allecia was talking about and sharing today, and the things that she's doing and the things that she's going to continue doing for other folks, I just want to let everybody know that she is legit. She is legit. And on behalf of my family, we appreciate you for that, and continue to do the work that you're doing, because for lack of better terms, we need this. We need this.
That's what the animals have said. I mean, they're here to help us remember who we are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I can't tell anybody anything. And it's interesting because I would never, going into this as a young kid wanting to be a vet, and I would never in a million years have been like, wow, look at how many animals not only can I help assist, but look at how many humans get to be assisted as well. And in my wildest dreams, I never could have come up with what's going to work this way. Like, I'm gonna actually not just take blood tests and do things. Like, I'm actually going to talk with them and find out, okay, how do we help you heal? And as you're healing, how do we help your human heal?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And
amazing.
it works. And I just hope that you can keep touching more lives with your amazing gift, and again, we all have it, but you're tuned in. So, and Allecia, as I do with all of my guests, as we wrapping up the show, I like to ask all my guests 6 questions. They're all the same. I've asked all my guests these same questions. There is no right or wrong answer for these questions. It's just yours. Okay. Just your answers. So here's the first one. Beyond all the knowledge and experiences that you've gained thus far, with everything that you've learned, what still leaves you in awe or makes you question everything?
Being able to take a deep breath and sit outside with my horses and watch the sunset. Like, that's my heaven on Mother Earth. Like, I will always be in awe of how beautiful this planet is.
Yeah. Allecia, what is, from your understanding, what is the ultimate purpose of life?
Remember who we really are and have that experience, to be able to have that experience in flesh.
What is God?
I can't tell you what God is, because my understanding of God now is gold, oil, and drugs. But I can tell you that my experience with the Tao and the universal energy and intelligence is beyond anything I can describe. That's the awe, that there is an intelligence that was aware of every single little nuance, but was able to create the vastness of this. To me, it's awe.
Allecia, what is love?
Is that a trick question?
Your answer. From what you understand up to this point, from everything that you know, what if you were to define and explain to somebody, what is love?
It's an experience of being part of the totality of this unified field and feeling all of it.
Yeah. If you could go back to little young Allecia, what would you tell her today?
Girl, don't sweat the small shit. You have no freaking idea who you are yet, and you are going to have so much fun. So just keep having fun and don't fucking worry about it.
I love it. Straight up. You know what's funny? A lot of people actually say that. They just say, just don't change a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Allecia, one more time, if you could tell the folks how to find you, how they can continue to follow you, reach out to you, things like that.
My website is AlleciaMaine.com, Maine.com. If you want to reach me by email, hello@animalhealer with 2 E's, HEELER. And I'll also drop you a link to the TV show, the membership for the show.
Yeah.
It's no obligation. You can join for a month, really inexpensive, and you can watch every week. And even if you can't watch the replays and just feel, just be present and just feel what changes for you over, the course of an hour and a half. Because I wasn't expecting this, but the animals were like, you're offering a unified field healing for everybody that's, watching or that watches the replay. And I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like I sense that forget all the politics, forget all the diversity, forget all the separation. If we could just remember we're all part of the same unified field. And that's where I think the animals hold the most intelligence because they still remember and where we've forgotten. And they're the master teachers that are just trying to remind us, hey, breathe, chill, keep your fascia tissue open and keep going. Just, like reel it in and just remember, like when you're connected to that unified field and you feel that awe and that love of that divine intelligence, why would you want to harm anything? So they really do have the master key codes that help us remember the codes of conduct and behavior, how we were designed to live here before it got all artificial and distorted and corrupted and poisoned. That's why I really enjoy spending time with them, and just helping people remember, like, it really is this simple.
Absolutely. Well said. I appreciate you sharing that. And folks, I'm sure a lot of you are sitting back and just processing and even probably petting your animal right now or looking at them right now. And you're starting to question things. And that's good.
Yeah.
Start to
Or
question
even
things.
remember, oh my God, that time that I thought that I was crazy because you're remembering. No, that's actually normal.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of this podcast, Allecia, is we have these conversations and it's not just about just two people sitting and sharing what you think something is or what we disagree on. It's just about anything in that conversation. If it triggers a remembrance in you, we've done our job. We've done our job.
May I also offer you a compliment? I've been on a lot of different podcasts and you just have such a lovely way of being and leading your guests into conversation. It's really been an honor to have a conversation with you. It's been lovely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, that hits me here and everything. I'm in gratitude with that comment. I absorb that. I honor that. So I appreciate you on that. And that's what this is supposed to be. We're supposed to just have a conversation. Two like-minded folks. You're in a whole different space than I am, but
I can join Vicky and his out of.
Yeah. Yeah. And folks, this is, if you guys watch also my other episodes as well, there's a lot of things that I don't know. Okay. And there's a lot of things that my guests don't know about me and about what I do and things like that. So this should be proof that people, if their heart is in the same place, they should be able to sit across from each other or miles away on a Zoom call and just have a conversation, folks. Just exchange information. Hey, we're all experiencing this. We're having this experience together. But Allecia, how are you, experiencing your side of the house? Cesar, how are you experiencing your side of the house?
That's so awesome because people are so divided arguing about points and, supposed facts when honestly nobody's telling the truth anyway. So who knows what the facts are? But I love that you just brought that so full circle. It's like, let's stop yelling at each other. The whole point of what's happening right now is to divide us and to get us arguing about points so we don't humanize each other. And when you talk to somebody else and you share your experiences, it's just about listening to each other. There might be people that go, she's freaking nuts. Okay, cool. Could be. Absolutely could be. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to defend myself because I've had the experiences thousands and thousands and thousands of times. So I don't have anything to defend. So that whole thing that when you have an experience that you can actually share versus having a talking point that could divide you if you don't agree. I love that you brought that up to get back to the place of share your experiences with each other.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
And I appreciate you validating that. I definitely agree with what you said as well. And folks, in the comments below, anything in this conversation that resonate with you, that you agree with, that you even disagree with. It doesn't matter. Put it in the comments, because by doing that, we're having a conversation. So don't be so dismissive on other people's experiences. And this is also, it all falls into, at least for my podcast, is I always remind folks, respect my truth, respect the truth of my guests, because like I said in the beginning of this episode and all my episodes, is that I always thank my guests first for gifting, because that's what they're doing, their time and their energy to share their experiences for all of you.
That's so respectful. So respectful.
So once you, this is why we start off the episode that way, to acknowledge what is happening, to then allow the conversation to flow as it needs to flow. And we circle back to the end here, folks, is because of my personal experience and my own testimony. Is you'll see Allecia's information links on the description below. Go check her out. Go check out her website. Go read more about her. There's many of you that have animals, and you know why you have them with you, right? But I know you have more questions. So if you don't feel confident in understanding what's going on with your animal, we're providing you a solution here for somebody who, as I can attest, is kind, lovely, beautiful on the inside and on the outside. And she's providing this service from her heart for all of you. So let's give her some business, and let's keep her going, and keep her fully occupied. All right. Don't give her a break. All right. There's a lot of
research. Support the research so we keep remembering.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Allecia, let me give you one last moment. Is there a final thing that you'd like to tell my audience before I go into my outro?
Remember that no matter what's happening, you need to just take a deep breath, and you need to just get out of your head, ground back into your body, just reconnect with the unified field, and then you can proceed.
And with that said, folks, as a reminder, I love you. I see you. I hear you. I am you. Continue to ask questions. Don't be afraid to pull back the current and take a deeper look. Push forward, always reaching beyond the frequency.